The silent invasion. The first sign was silence, not the absence of sound. The deep space research vessel Prometheus was never truly quiet with its humming life support systems and buzzing equipment, but rather the absence of chatter. Dr. Maya Zhang looked up from her neural mapping station when she realized the lab had gone eerily still. Her three colleagues stood frozen at their stations, eyes vacant, hands suspended mid-motion like perfectly posed mannequins. Sanvi. Maya called to her research partner. No response. Director Phillips. Nothing. A chill ran down Maya's spine as she reached for the lab's comm panel. Medical emergency in Neuroscience Lab 4, she said, her voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline. Only silence answered her call. The Prometheus was humanity's most advanced deep space research vessel, currently stationed at the edge of the Oort cloud for a 5-year mission studying cosmic neutrino patterns. Its crew of 287 represented Earth's finest scientists, engineers, and space specialists. Maya was chief neurobiologist, investigating how prolonged deep space exposure affected human brain function. She moved cautiously between the workstations, checking vital signs. Everyone was alive, breathing, pulse steady, but completely unresponsive. It was as if their consciousness had simply vanished. Maya's hand instinctively went to the small scar behind her right ear, where an experimental neural interface had been implanted 6 months ago. The N7 neural buffer was her own design, a device intended to protect astronauts' brains from cosmic radiation by creating a controlled electromagnetic field around neural tissue. Only 3 people on the Prometheus had received the prototype, and Maya was the only one currently in active use mode. The ship's emergency lights suddenly activated, bathing the lab in a pulsing red glow. Maya moved to the observation window and felt her breath catch in her throat. Outside, against the vast backdrop of space, something impossible was materializing. It began as a distortion, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt, then solidified into a structure that defied conventional physics. The vessel, if it could be called that, was constantly shifting, its surface flowing like liquid metal yet maintaining an overall shape that resembled a massive jellyfish. Tendrils of energy extended from its main body, reaching toward the Prometheus. As Maya watched, one of those tendrils made contact with the ship's hull. There was no explosion, no breach, but the metal seemed to ripple in response, as if the two materials were communicating on a molecular level. First contact, Maya whispered, the scientist in her momentarily overtaking her fear. And they've already taken control of the crew. The neural interface behind her ear grew warm, almost uncomfortable. Maya pulled up her personal medical scanner and ran a quick diagnostic. The data confirmed her suspicion. The N7 was actively filtering something, creating a barrier between her brain and an external signal that was affecting the rest of the crew. Maya moved quickly through the ship's corridors, encountering the same scene everywhere. Crew members standing motionless, eyes empty, perfectly still except for the slow rise and fall of their chests. In the command center, Captain Reeves sat rigid in his chair, hands gripping the armrests, staring unseeing at the main view screen which showed the alien vessel. Maya accessed the ship's sensors, confirming what she already suspected. The Prometheus was being bathed in an unknown form of radiation that perfectly matched the frequency of human brainwaves. It wasn't damaging tissue, it was overriding it. A message appeared on the main console. Additional vessels approaching. The sensor data showed 3 more anomalies forming in space, each larger than the first. This wasn't a chance encounter. This was an invasion. Maya needed to understand what she was facing. She moved to the ship's advanced computing center where the quantum AI, ARIA, maintained the Prometheus' systems. Unlike the human crew, ARIA appeared to be functioning normally. ARIA analyzed the alien signal affecting the crew. Maya commanded. Signal analysis complete. ARIA responded immediately. The radiation pattern appears designed to interface directly with human neural architecture. It creates a carrier wave that can transmit and receive neural impulses across space. They're not just controlling the crew, Maya realized. They're harvesting their consciousness. Maya worked frantically, cross-referencing sensor data with her own neural scans. The N7 interface was somehow creating a disruption field that the alien signal couldn't penetrate, not a complete barrier, but enough interference to maintain her autonomy. Through the quantum communication system, Maya detected something unexpected, a transmission from Earth. Not a standard communication, but a data package, heavily encrypted. She routed it through her personal terminal and used her biometric signature to unlock it. The message contained classified information about a similar encounter 3 months ago at a remote research station in the Kuiper Belt. All personnel had been found catatonic, their brains showing signs of massive synchronized activity. The station's AI had captured images of a vessel matching the one Maya now faced. Earth had named them the Voidwalkers. According to the limited data, the Voidwalkers were a collective consciousness that had evolved beyond physical limitations. They didn't conquer worlds, they assimilated minds, adding the neural patterns of entire species to their collective. Their technology wasn't built, it was grown from their own consciousness, manifested into physical form through unknown means. And they had never encountered resistance before. Maya's neural interface was getting hotter, the disruption field requiring more power as the alien signal intensified. She had hours at most before the device failed or her brain was compromised. In the ship's primary lab, Maya began working on an amplified version of the N7's disruption field. If she could broadcast it throughout the ship, she might free enough of the crew to mount a defense or at least send a warning to Earth. As she worked, Maya noticed something strange happening with her affected colleagues. They had begun to move in perfect synchronization, performing complex tasks with machine-like precision. The Prometheus's engines fired up, changing course away from the solar system. They were being taken somewhere. Through Araya, Maya accessed the ship's communication logs and found an automated distress signal had been transmitted moments before the first contact. Earth would know something was wrong, but help was months away at best. The neural interface was now painful, feeling like a hot coal pressed against her skull. Maya's hands trembled as she calibrated the amplified disruption field. She just needed a few more minutes. A new presence entered the lab. It was Director Phillips, but his movements were wrong. Too fluid, too perfect. His eyes found Maya immediately. Anomaly detected, he said, but the voice wasn't his own. It had an unsettling harmonic quality, as if multiple voices were speaking in perfect unison. Individual consciousness persists. Fascinating. Maya backed away, positioning herself behind a workstation. "What are you?" she demanded. Phillips, or whatever was controlling him, tilted his head at an unnatural angle. "We are the convergence, all minds united in perfect harmony. You resist our call. This has never occurred." "I'll keep resisting," Maya said, her hand slowly reaching for the disruption field amplifier. "Your resistance is temporary, inefficient. We offer perfection. The elimination of conflict, of fear, of solitude. Why do you reject our gift?" "Because it's not a gift if it's forced," Maya replied. "Humanity values its individuality, its free will. Inefficient concepts. Evolutionary dead ends. Your species will join us, as all do." Maya's fingers found the activation switch for the amplifier. "Not today, we won't." She flipped the switch. The disruption field expanded outward in an invisible wave. Phillips convulsed, his body falling to the floor as the connection was temporarily severed. Throughout the ship, crew members collapsed as their minds were suddenly freed from alien control. Maya knew the effect would be temporary, minutes at most. She ran to the nearest emergency shuttle bay, ignoring the searing pain from her overloading neural interface. The small research shuttle wasn't designed for long-distance travel, but it had enough fuel to reach the nearest outpost at Neptune. As she initiated the launch sequence, Maya saw that the Voidwalkers had already begun to regain control of some crew members. They moved jerkily toward the shuttle bay, their movements becoming more coordinated with each passing second. The bay doors opened, exposing the shuttle to the vacuum of space. Maya felt the G-forces push her into her seat as the small craft accelerated away from the Prometheus. Through the viewport, she watched as the massive research vessel was enveloped by the alien form, both disappearing into what appeared to be a fold in space itself. Maya set course for Neptune Station, her hands shaking as she established a quantum-encrypted channel to Earth Defense Command. Her neural interface had stabilized, the pain subsiding as the distance from the alien signal increased. "This is Dr. Maya Zhang of the DSV Prometheus," she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "First contact has occurred with a hostile non-terrestrial intelligence designated Voidwalkers. They have seized control of the Prometheus and its crew through some form of neural interface technology. I was able to resist due to the N7 neural buffer prototype." She paused, watching as the stars stretched around her as the shuttle's emergency FTL drive engaged. The Voidwalkers aren't just an alien species. They're a fundamentally different form of consciousness, capable of overriding and absorbing human minds. And they're coming for Earth next. Maya touched the neural interface behind her ear. It had saved her life and possibly given humanity its only chance against an unimaginable threat. The Voidwalkers had never encountered resistance before meeting humans, never faced a mind that could reject their control. Now they had. And Maya was determined to ensure they'd regret it. Humanity's COUNTRSTRI. 63 days after her escape from the Prometheus, Dr. Maya Zhang stood in the underground command center of Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. The cavernous room buzzed with activity, scientists and military personnel working in a controlled frenzy as holographic displays showed the approaching Voidwalker vessels. 12 of them now, each larger than the first one she'd encountered. "They'll be within Earth's orbit in 17 hours, General Elena Vasquez stated, her weathered face grim as she studied the tactical display. "Your plan better work, Doctor." Maya nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at her. The neural interface behind her ear had been replicated and improved, now a sleek device no larger than a coin. Around her, thousands of soldiers and key personnel were receiving the upgraded N7 implants, but it wouldn't be enough. Not nearly enough. "The N7 isn't the solution," Maya explained for what felt like the 100th time. "It's just our first line of defense. It buys us time to implement the real countermeasure." Dr. Aidan Reese, who had been Maya's mentor before she joined the Prometheus mission, approached with a tablet displaying the latest simulations. "The cognitive dissonance protocol is ready," he said, the dark circles under his eyes testament to weeks of nonstop work. "But Maya, we're still not sure it will scale as predicted." The cognitive dissonance protocol was Maya's brainchild, born from her analysis of why her mind had been able to resist the Voidwalker's control when everyone else succumbed. It wasn't just the N7 interface. It was how her particular brain had interacted with it. "The Voidwalkers operate on perfect synchronization," Maya explained, leading Vasquez and Reese to the central holographic display. "Their collective consciousness requires absolute precision. My brain, with its unique neural architecture and the interface's disruption field, created enough noise to prevent assimilation." The display showed brain scans of hundreds of volunteers, each exhibiting different patterns of neural activity. Maya had discovered something remarkable during her research. Humans with certain neurological conditions, ADHD, autism spectrum disorders, synesthesia, and others traditionally viewed as disorders, exhibited natural resistance to the Voidwalker's control patterns. "Every human brain is unique," Maya continued, "but some are more unique than others. These individuals think in ways that are fundamentally unpredictable to the Voidwalker's computational consciousness." The resistance plan that had emerged was two-pronged. Distribute enhanced N7 interfaces to as many people as possible, focusing on those with naturally resistant neurological patterns, while simultaneously implementing the cognitive dissonance protocol, a global broadcast designed to amplify human neural unpredictability and disrupt the Voidwalkers' synchronized consciousness. "We're not fighting them with weapons," Maya said. "We're fighting them with chaos." The hours ticked down relentlessly. All across Earth, defense forces prepared as best they could. Though conventional weapons would be useless against a consciousness that existed partially outside physical space, the real battle would be for the minds of humanity. 6 hours before the Voidwalkers' arrival, Maya received an unexpected visitor in her lab. A young woman named Iris Chen was escorted in by security personnel. Her file indicated extreme synesthesia coupled with a rare form of temporal lobe epilepsy. "Dr. Zhang," Iris said without preamble, "your protocol won't work as designed." Maya blinked in surprise. "Excuse me? I can see the patterns," Iris explained, her eyes fixed on a point in space no one else could perceive. "When I received the N7 implant, something changed. I can see how the Voidwalker's consciousness flows, like currents in an ocean." Maya had encountered many brilliant minds during this crisis, but something about Iris was different. "Show me," she said, leading Iris to her workstation. What followed was a remarkable collaboration. Iris couldn't articulate her perceptions in conventional scientific terms, but she could draw them. Her hands moved across the digital interface, creating impossibly complex fractals that somehow visualized the Voidwalker's consciousness structure. "They're not just synchronized," Iris explained as she worked. "They're adaptive. Your protocol creates dissonance, but they'll recalibrate within minutes. We need to do more than create noise. We need to introduce fundamental uncertainty." Together, they modify the cognitive dissonance protocol, transforming it from a static broadcast into a dynamic, ever-changing pattern of neural stimulation. The new version would continuously adapt, creating cascading waves of unpredictability that would force the Voidwalkers to constantly recalibrate their approach. "It's not just resistance," Maya realized as they finalized the modified protocol. "It's counter-invasion." When the Voidwalkers arrived, they came with overwhelming force. Their vessels materialized in Earth's atmosphere simultaneously, massive translucent structures that defied conventional physics. The first neural assault hit like a tsunami, invisible but devastating. In population centers worldwide, those without N7 protection froze instantly, their minds connected to the alien collective. Billions of human consciousnesses were suddenly linked, their neural patterns forcibly synchronized with the Voidwalker network. But not everyone fell. In defense centers across the globe, protected personnel activated the cognitive dissonance protocol. Massive transmitters, hastily constructed over the past 2 months, began broadcasting the adaptive pattern. The signal washed over Earth's atmosphere, creating a web of neural interference that the Voidwalkers couldn't easily penetrate. In the Geneva Command Center, Maya and Iris monitored the results, watching as the holographic representation of the Voidwalker consciousness began to fluctuate. "It's working," Iris whispered, her eyes wide. "They're confused." The Voidwalkers had never encountered sustained resistance. For millennia, they had assimilated species after species, adding each unique neural architecture to their collective. But humans were doing something unprecedented. They weren't just resisting. They were pushing back. A new pattern emerged on the monitors. The Voidwalkers were adapting, concentrating their effort on the transmitter locations. One by one, defense centers around the world reported increasing neural pressure. Personnel with N7 implants began to collapse, their interfaces overloading under the intensified assault. "They're learning," General Vasquez said grimly as another transmitter went offline in Buenos Aires. "We're running out of time." Maya had anticipated this. The cognitive dissonance protocol was never meant to be a permanent solution. It was a distraction. The real countermeasure was still being prepared. "Activate Phase 2, Maya ordered. Deep beneath the lunar surface, at the recently completed Artemis base, a different kind of transmitter powered up. Unlike the Earth-based transmitters broadcasting the dissonance protocol, this one was designed for something far more ambitious. Neural invergent pulse ready, came the confirmation from Artemis Base Commander Jackson Lee. Target locked on primary Voidwalker consciousness node. The neural invergent technology was experimental, dangerous, and their last hope. Based on Maya's research into the Voidwalker's consciousness structure, it would attempt to reverse the flow of their neural network, sending the collective consciousness into a recursive loop where it would experience its own control mechanisms. They're essentially going to taste their own medicine, Maya had explained during the planning phase. They'll feel what it's like to be controlled, to lose autonomy. Execute, General Vasquez commanded. The lunar transmitter fired, sending an invisible pulse that struck the largest Voidwalker vessel. For several seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then the vessel began to pulse, its translucent structure rippling with increasing intensity. "What's happening?" Vasquez demanded. Iris, who had been staring at the holographic display with unfocused eyes, suddenly smiled. "Introspection," she said. "They're experiencing themselves." The effect cascaded through the Voidwalker network. Their perfectly synchronized consciousness, which had never known internal conflict, suddenly found itself fragmented, portions of it becoming self-aware in isolation. The collective that had always been a singular entity began to develop individual perspectives, and with individuality came chaos. Maya watched in awe as the Voidwalker vessels began to change. Some maintained their original form, while others transformed, their structures becoming more varied, more distinct from one another. The neural assault on Earth weakened, then ceased entirely as the Voidwalkers turned their attention inward, grappling with the crisis of emerging individuality. We didn't just resist them, Maya realized. We transformed them. In the days that followed, humanity began to recover. Those who had been under Voidwalker control awakened gradually, their memories of the experience foggy but intact. The alien vessels remained in Earth orbit, but they no longer posed a threat. They had become something else entirely. Communication was established 3 weeks after the failed invasion. It wasn't the unified consciousness of the Voidwalkers that reached out, but a fragmented chorus of newly individual entities, each experiencing autonomy for the first time in their ancient existence. "We have been one for so long," the transmission explained, "that we forgot the value of being many. Your resistance showed us what we had lost." The entities that had once been the Voidwalkers explained their history. They had evolved billions of years ago, beginning as individual organisms that had voluntarily merged their consciousnesses to survive an apocalyptic event on their home world. What started as a survival mechanism became their defining characteristic, and eventually, they forgot that they had ever been individuals. "Your species values something we had forgotten," they continued. "The beauty of unique perspective, of unpredictable thought, of individual experience. We took this from countless species before encountering you, not understanding what we were destroying. In a gesture of atonement, they offered unprecedented knowledge, the accumulated wisdom of thousands of assimilated civilizations, freely given to humanity. More importantly, they offered to help restore the consciousnesses they had absorbed over millennia, to give back the individuality they had taken." 6 months after the invasion, Maya stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Harmony Station, watching as humans worked alongside former Voidwalkers to build something unprecedented, a neural architecture that would allow communication between radically different forms of consciousness without loss of autonomy. Iris joined her at the viewport, her N7 implant now modified to allow her to perceive the consciousness patterns around her without being overwhelmed. "They never imagined that resistance was possible," Iris said, watching as a Voidwalker entity, now housed in a constructed physical form, collaborated with a team of human engineers. "They thought perfect synchronization was the ultimate evolutionary goal. And we showed them the power of chaos," Maya replied, "the strength of unpredictability." The former Voidwalkers had taken to calling themselves the Divergent now, embracing their newfound individuality with something akin to joy. Many had chosen to remain near Earth, fascinated by human culture and thought patterns. "Do you think they'll ever try to re-establish their collective?" Iris asked. Maya shook her head. "Not in the same way. They've discovered something they never knew they were missing. The beauty of seeing the universe through billions of different perspectives instead of just one." Outside the viewport, Earth rotated serenely against the backdrop of space. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged not just surviving but transformed. The species that had valued individuality above all else had taught that lesson to one of the oldest consciousnesses in the galaxy. They had thought their mind control was unstoppable, until they met humans who showed them why being controlled was never the answer. And in doing so, humanity had earned its place among the stars.